One of the major influences in today's real estate market is the foreign buyer. So buyers and sellers who are buying in Canada or the United States need to know a few things before they make that move. It's a very big investment, but before you move ahead, here's 10 things that you need to know. Canada and the United States have what's called a multiple listing service. That means that you can work with one agent who can show you all the listings in his office or her office, and they can also show you listings that belong to other companies. So you needn't shop for a number of agents. You can use one agent, and that agent can show you as many properties as you would like to see. Sellers enter into a contract to list their properties for sale with one agent called the listing agent. Buyers can enter into contracts with what we call a buyer agency agreement, which means that that buyer's fiduciary duty is to you as the buyer. That means that they have to protect your interests, they have to make sure you've got all the information, and they are on your side in a number of transactions. So it's buyer agency, buyer representation, and it's very, very important in North America. Make sure that you have funds transferred into a Canadian or a US bank so that you are ready to move ahead with the transaction. If you see something, you need to make sure that your funds are on shore before you make any sort of deposit or down payment and transactions. So don't expect that your funds can be transferred within a day or two. They should be on shore. They should be in North America and ready to do the purchase. You will need a deposit, and a deposit is something that is cash or a certified funds, and that money has to go into a bank account with the listing brokerage, and it is called a deposit, and it's either between 5 or 10%, and it should be fairly accessible from your bank account into the trust fund of the listing company. If you need financing, you will have to be pre-approved by a bank with branches in Canada. There are a lot of foreign banks in Canada and you can use them, but they're much happier if a lot of your assets are already transferred into Canadian funds or in a Canadian bank, or US funds in the US bank. Buying property in Canada or the United States is like buying property in many other places. There are taxes to be paid. Here we have taxes on the property that are paid on a yearly basis. There's also taxes that are paid when you actually buy the property. And in Toronto at the moment, there are two taxes to be paid. One goes, and 2% goes to the province, and 2% of the purchase price goes to the City of Toronto. But you have to be prepared to pay those taxes on closing. Owning property in Canada and the United States means that you will have to pay property taxes. Taxes on most properties are a factor of the size of the property and the value of the property, and here it is based on a percentage of the value of the property, and usually that's 1% of the value of the property you pay in taxes per year. But that is a figure that you should keep in mind. When you sell your property, you will be subject to a withholding tax, and that withholding tax will be relinquished once the government assesses your tax liability. Please know that when you buy property in Canada and it's financed and you have a mortgage, the mortgagee can go after you for all of the value of the mortgage that you've borrowed. So you are responsible to the mortgagee to pay that money back. Please know that an accepted agreement of purchase and sale is a contract, and it is a binding contract. It's not something that you can walk away from, nor would I suggest you ever do that. Buying in Canada has been very, very profitable for a lot of people. It's a very safe place to live. It's a very safe place to put your money. Please note that anytime you buy a property in Canada, there are strong property rights, and it's very hard for somebody to take that property away from you unless you do not meet your financial commitments. But it's a very strong, safe place to invest.